The Linux kernel is the most important piece of software that runs on your Raspberry Pi. It includes all of the device drivers to be able to talk to your hardware. It marshals all of the processes running on your Pi and allocates them CPU and memory resource so that they can run as intended. Now, there are times when the default kernel that comes with your Raspberry Pi doesn't have everything enabled that you need it to. Or indeed, you may find out that there's a new feature in a newer build of the Raspberry Pi kernel that they haven't officially released yet. For all of these reasons, you can build a custom version of the Raspberry Pi kernel, and that can be intimidating. But let me show you how to do it. Hello once again, Pi geeks and techno nerds all around the world. My name's Jeff, and I'm an IT professional who's been in the industry for over 30 years. I've been using Raspberry Pi since they first came out, and I wanted to share with you some of the projects that I've done along the way. If you like what you see on this channel, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell so you can be told when I put out a new video. Let me know in the comments how you get on with this project, and if you've got any ideas for other things that you'd like to see me do in the future, put those in there as well. Now, rebuilding the Raspberry Pi kernel may be something you've heard about from other YouTube channels such as Jeff Geerling. Heck, he does it all the time. He even made a t-shirt. But the process of doing this can seem quite intimidating, but it's actually quite straightforward. But why would you do this? Well, one of the main reasons is normally device support. You may have a device that just doesn't work by default. And one of the reasons for this may be that the device driver for it is simply not enabled by default within the kernel. The people who look after the kernel source code are always having to make decisions about what to enable and what to disable in the kernel. And this is just to ensure that the storage required for the kernel doesn't get too big. If they enabled support for literally everything, it would be huge. But devices aren't the only reason. New features are being added to the kernel all the time. Maybe a support for a new file system, maybe new networking support. Heck, maybe one day we'll even see hardware video encoding support on the Pi 5, though I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, the Raspberry Pi Foundation do provide a really good web page that contains all of the instructions for how to build the kernel. It is really good and comprehensive. However, if I scroll down here, you can see it's actually quite complex, and I found that following this through wasn't the easiest thing in the world. So I thought I'd just give you a very quick step-by-step guide on how to pull specific versions of the source code from GitHub and how to build it. It's actually much easier than you'd think. And also, on a Raspberry Pi, it doesn't actually take that long to do it. On older Pis, such as the Pi 4 or the Pi 3, it does take a long time. You'll be waiting for a couple of hours for it all to build. But on a Pi 5, it only takes about 20 minutes, which isn't too bad at all. Now, there are ways that you can build the kernel on a completely different machine, such as your regular laptop or desktop computer. This is called cross-compiling. Now, I'm not going to cover this here. I personally find it quite cumbersome because actually getting your kernel across onto the SD card after cross-compilation is a bit of a mission. I just find it much easier to build directly on my Raspberry Pi. So that's the technique I'll be going through here. Now, as I mentioned previously, all of the instructions on how to do this are available on raspberrypi.com. But it is quite an involved process. And I also found that it was actually quite easy to make little typos that could get in the way of everything running successfully. So to help out with that, I've put together a bunch of small scripts on my GitHub that you can pull, and you can use these to build the Raspberry Pi kernel on a Pi 5. Now, I'm only going to be exclusively talking about the Pi 5 in this specific video. I'll create branches within this repo for different models of Raspberry Pi, so you'll have them available no matter what version of Pi you have. Pulling the scripts from GitHub is really easy. Just go to the code button, hit the copy URL to clipboard button just next to the URL that's shown, switch over to your Raspberry Pi and type in git clone and then paste in that URL. Just hit enter. And here it's going to be asking me for credentials. That's just because I haven't made this public yet. When you come to clone this, it won't ask you for that. And now you'll see I've got my Pi build kernel directory. And if I go into there, you can see all of my different files. If you are using something other than a Raspberry Pi 5, then you can switch to a different branch of this code. You can see all of the available branches by running git branch. This will show you all of the available permutations of this code base that I've made available. So let's say you were building on a Pi 3 with a 32-bit version of the operating system. You could just run the command git checkout Pi 3 _ 32-bit. All of the scripts will then be updated to run with that version of Pi on that version of the operating system. If you use the main branch, that will always be for the Pi 5 64-bit. And of course you can find the link to my GitHub along with links to everything else you see in this video in the description below. Now, before we can build anything, you need to install some dependency packages. And this is just software that the Pi needs in order to be able to build the kernel. And you can do that with this command here. Sudo apt install bc bison flex libssldev make git and libncurses-dev. If you just hit enter on that and then confirm that you want to install, everything will then go ahead and install. The next thing we have to do here is actually grab the source code for the Raspberry Pi kernel itself. And again, a link to this repo will be in the description. Now, one thing to be aware of here is the branch. You can see in this drop down where my cursor is that I'm currently on the branch rpi-6.6.y, and this is for the 6.6 kernel. And by default, at least at the time of recording, this is the version of the kernel that ships with Raspberry Pi OS. If I switch back to my Raspberry Pi kernel, you can see that if I run uname-r, it will tell me what version of kernel I'm currently running. And you can see here that right now I am running a 6.6 kernel. And so if I did pull this particular version of the source code out of the repo, it would be the source code for the version that I'm actively running. But that's not the only one that's available. If I hit this link here to go and see all of the other branches that are available, you can see that there are branches for 6.7, 6.8, 6.9, 10 and 11. Now the 6.11 version of the Linux kernel was released in September 2024. So on your desktop computer or on your laptop, you may find you're already running that. So the Raspberry Pi kernel is actually some way behind what is officially available. Now, if you want to see all of the specific changes that have gone into a version, you can just click on that branch and then hit the commit history, and you can see everything that was committed into that branch. Now, an awful lot of what you see here will just be kind of cursory bug fixes and things like that. But every now and again, just like this top commit here, you could see actually where they added new functionality. If you're interested, you can then click through into that and see the details of the change that was made. It can be absolutely fascinating. Anyway, back to our terminal. And in order to pull the source code for the current branch, so in our case the 6.6 branch, you would just use this command here. Git clone --depth equals 1 and then the URL to the Raspberry Pi Linux GitHub repo. However, if you do want to pull and then subsequently build a specific branch of the kernel, you need to specify this extra parameter of --" branch and then the name of the branch that you want to pull. In this case, I'd be pulling the 6.11 kernel. And now you've got all the source code, you're ready to start the whole build process. Now, the first stage of the build process involves you building a default configuration for the Raspberry Pi kernel. As I mentioned before, I've got a shortcut script for this. So all you need to do is run /prepare_kernel.sh. It's really as easy as that. The next stage is probably the most complex part of this whole process. You have to actually configure the kernel definition to specify all of the individual features and drivers and other bits of functionality that you want to be present within your kernel. Fortunately, they provide a really nice menu system to be able to do this. And in order to access that, you just need to run this command here, /config_kernel.sh. And here we are inside the menu. Now, before we do anything in here, one thing I'd always advise that you do is go into General Setup, come down to where it says Local Version, open that up, and then just at the end of this string, put in something that uniquely identifies you. In this case, I'm just going to put PITS for Pie in the Sky, and then just hit OK. Now, after we've built this kernel and I show you it running, you'll see where I can make use of this. But it's just basically a way that you can use to verify that you are running your version of the kernel. After this, just hit Exit, and you'll be back to the default menu. Now, this menu system is huge. There are so many different options that you can select in here. And I'm not going to go through all of them within this video because it would take hours and hours and hours. But just some of the things that you're more likely to go and hit is firstly this section here for device drivers. What you'll find in here are all different categories of types of hardware that you might want to connect to your Raspberry Pi. Not all are supported by default. Just as an example, if I go into network device support and I then scroll down to wireless LAN, what you can see in here is that not all wireless network drivers are enabled by default. So if I had one of these wireless network cards, they wouldn't necessarily work straight away. I'd have to go in and select one of these drivers and then build my kernel, and then I would find they would work just fine. Now, unless you're using a PCI Express interface on your Raspberry Pi, more likely you would be going to the USB network adapters section. And in here, most things are enabled, which is good. But you can see here, there's the Kingheng CH9200 USB Ethernet support. That's not enabled. If you had one of those cards, it wouldn't work by default. Now, as well as device driver support, there's also some functionality on the Pi that isn't there by default. So if I go in here, for example, into I2C support, then here you'll see not everything is enabled. Depending on the project that I'm trying to do, if I required some of this functionality at the bottom here, I wouldn't be able to use that unless I did select that within my kernel and specifically enabled it. So I hope you get the idea here that there are many, many things that you can enable that aren't there by default within the kernel. It's actually quite surprising when you go through the whole list. Now, it's not only enabling stuff that you may want to do. Let's say you're building a project where you're going to be really restricted on the amount of storage space you have. Having all of these drivers and stuff available to the Raspberry Pi by default is meaningless to you, and it's just going to bloat the kernel out. So within here, you can also remove support for hardware that you know you're never going to need. So, just as an example, if I go into the Ethernet network driver support, if I know for sure I'm never going to be using any of these devices, I can just hit the spacebar and it will actually deselect that device, meaning that my kernel won't be able to support that device anymore. And this will help shrink down your overall kernel size at the end. So again, you can use building the kernel as an optimization technique. Now, in this specific case, I'm just going to build a 6.11 kernel. I'm not going to enable or disable anything specifically. I'm just going to prove the fact that I can build the kernel and then run it. So now I've set my special identifier for my kernel. All I have to do is hit save. That will ask me how I want to save this out, and I do want to save it as .config. And then I just hit exit and exit again. And now we're ready to go ahead and build the kernel. Now, actually building the kernel is probably the most straightforward part of this, but it's also the most time consuming. As you can imagine, there is a lot of source code to the kernel, and it doesn't build in a very quick time frame. As I said earlier, if you're doing this on a Pi 4, maybe a Pi 3, you will be there for hours waiting for this to finish. However, just leave it running. Unless you're under some kind of really major time constraint, it's no real big deal. And personally, I'd still much rather build the kernel on my Raspberry Pi itself rather than cross-compile it on a different machine. The complexities involved with that are just pretty grim. To build the kernel, you just have to run this command here, /build_kernel.sh. This will kick off the build process, and like I say, on my Pi 5 here, it'll take around 20 minutes. So I'll just come back again when this is all finished. And now that's all finished building, all we have to do now is install it. Now, installing the kernel does require root privilege, and so you have to do this with sudo. Now there are a whole bunch of commands you need to run in order to install all of the different parts of the kernel, but I've wrapped all those together in one shell script. So we have to run here is sudo.install_kernel.sh. And now that's all installed, the last thing you have to do is reboot. Now everything's rebooted, we can prove that we are running the updated version of the kernel. All we have to do is run the command uname-r. And here we can see that we're running version 6.11 of the kernel. And we can also see the PITS custom text that I put in to identify my kernel. And there you go. Now you can have your very own customized version of the kernel with all of the latest features and all of the latest driver support. Or if you just want to have a cut down version of the kernel that only has what you need, you could do that as well. But that's it for this video. Once again, if you like what you see here, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell so you can be told when I put a new video out. Let me know in the comments what reasons you have for building your own kernel and how you get on with it. And if you've got any ideas for other projects that you'd like to see me do in the future, put those in there as well. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and until next time, bye for now.